This morning, the title of the message is Move Forward. Have you ever been in a situation where it just seems like everything is crushing in on you? That no matter which way you turned, you looked, you saw problems and pain and things just not going right. And you look forward and it's blocked. It just seems like it's completely blocked by this mammoth problem or whatever. Just it's there and you cannot see any way to move forward. And you turn behind you and you see this great big huge enemy of a problem coming in and crushing. And you look to the left or the right and you see, oh my, there's nowhere to escape. And you look to the left and it's the same. You are completely surrounded. Have you ever been there? There's a couple times in my life that I felt that way. That no matter where I turned, it seemed like the enemy was just crushing in on me. So what do we do? When we're in that situation, where do we turn? What do we do? What's happening to us? A lot of times fear. We're filled with this fear of, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I can't see any way out of this problem. You feel trapped. And you just can't see any way to move forward. We see, as we pick up with the Israelites and Moses this week, that's where they were. They've just left Egypt and you know, they're on this journey, and God had led them through the desert, knowing that if they would have gone straight to Canaan, they would have found these battles to fight, and they would have been close enough to Egypt to immediately turn and run and go back. But here we are today with them, and they've come to the sea, the Red Sea. And they see this great big mammoth problem. And they look behind them and they see, oh, hey, guess what? Pharaoh's decided, oh my word, what did I just do? I've let all my slaves go. All the people that are doing all these things for me, I've just let them go. What am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to chase them. So here the Israelites are. They see the sea in front of them. And they turn behind them and they see all of Pharaoh's chariots and soldiers coming after them. What are they going to do? I'm sure they felt trapped. Just like many of us have in different experiences that we've had through our life. This morning as we look at Scripture, we're going to watch this video.
When the king of Egypt heard that the Israelites had finally left, he and his officials changed their minds and said, "Look what we have done! We have let them get away, and they will no longer be our slaves!" The king got his war chariot and army ready. He commanded his officers in charge of his 600 best chariots and all his other chariots to start after the Israelites. The Lord made the king so stubborn that he went after them, even though the Israelites proudly went on their way. But the king's horses and chariots and soldiers caught up with them while they were camping by the Red Sea near Pi-Hahiroth and Baal-Zephon. When the Israelites saw the king coming with his army, they were frightened and begged the Lord for help. They also complained to Moses.
"Wasn't there enough room in Egypt to bury us? Is that why you brought us out here to die in the desert? Why did you bring us out of Egypt anyway? While we were there, didn't we tell you to leave us alone? We'd rather be slaves in Egypt than die in this desert."
But Moses answered, "Don't be afraid. Be brave, and you will see the Lord save you today. These Egyptians will never bother you again. The Lord will fight for you, and you won't have to do a thing." The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you keep calling out to me for help? Tell the Israelites to move forward. Then hold your walking stick over the sea. The water will open up and make a road where they can walk through on dry ground. I will make the Egyptians so stubborn that they will go after you. Then I will be praised because of what happens to the king and his chariots and cavalry. The Egyptians will know for sure that I am the Lord. All this time, God's angel had gone ahead of Israel's army, but now he moved behind them. A large cloud had also gone ahead of them, but now it moved between the Egyptians and the Israelites. The cloud gave light to the Israelites, but made it dark for the Egyptians, and during the night they could not come any closer. Moses stretched his arm over the sea, and the Lord sent a strong east wind that blew all night until there was dry land where the water had been. The sea opened up, and the Israelites walked through on dry land with a wall of water on each side. The Egyptian chariots and cavalry went after them, but before daylight, the Lord looked down at the Egyptian army from the fiery cloud and made them panic. The chariot wheels got stuck, and it was hard for them to move. So the Egyptians said to one another, "Let's leave these people alone. The Lord is on their side and is fighting against us." The Lord told Moses, "Stretch out your arm toward the sea. The water will cover the Egyptians and their cavalry and chariots." Moses stretched out his arm, and at daybreak the water rushed toward the Egyptians. They tried to run away, but the Lord drowned them in the sea. The water came and covered the chariots and cavalry and the whole Egyptian army that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them was left alive. But the sea had made a wall of water on each side of the Israelites, so they walked through on dry land. On that day, when the Israelites saw the bodies of the Egyptians washed up on the shore, they knew that the Lord had saved them. Because of the mighty power he had used against the Egyptians, the Israelites worshipped him and trusted him and his servant Moses.
See, God had a plan. But until the Israelites and Moses decided to do what God said, they were stuck. They were trapped. And what was it God said to do? Move forward. Move forward. Lord, I pray this morning that as we look at this scripture, I know that there are some sitting here today that are really struggling in desperate situations where they look around and it seems like absolutely nowhere they look can they see any kind of help. Lord, I pray that today you would help us to hear your voice as you give us the direction to move forward, that you would part the problem in front of us, and that we would be able to walk forward on dry, safe ground. Lord, so many times we love to be on the other side of the problem because we can look back and we can see how your hand protected us and your hand guided us. But so often when we're stuck right in the middle of the problem, it's hard to know what direction to go. So Lord, my prayer today is that you would help us see the way that you are leading. Lord, we need you right now. In your name we pray. Amen. See the problems. The Israelites, they're camped there at the edge of the water, right? And they look around, and what do they see? Right directly behind them, they see the Israelites coming. And they're not coming to say, "Hey, we miss you guys. Would you come back with us? We really like you. We want to keep a relationship going on with you." No, that's not what they're doing at all. They're coming full force, ready to attack and bring those Israelites back into slavery. You think about it, sin. Is sin something that we can just easily walk away from and never have anything come after that? No. Most generally, and if not even most often, as we exit a life of sin, it's right there on our tail, chasing after us, trying to drag us back, pull us. You can't quit. You can't quit. No matter what it is your sin is in your life, you can't quit. And we're struggling with that battle, and then all of a sudden we see in front of us this great big mountain. Or in the Israelites' case, this great big sea. That seems like it's not even feasible to go through. What are we going to do with it? In verse 10 it says, as Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, was it because there were not enough graves in Egypt that you brought us out into the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone? Let us serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. So what's going on? They looked at the problem. They looked at the problem. They saw what's behind them, and they saw what's in front of them. And they had no vision. They didn't see any way for God to get them out of that situation. It would have been much easier for us just to keep living the way we were living. Because, at least there we knew what to expect. We knew what was going to happen. We knew we had to go out and make the bricks and do this, that, and the other thing. And until you came along, Moses, they even supplied the straw for us to make the bricks. All they saw was the problems. And they complained. And then they accused their leader. You're the one doing all this to us. You're the one that's making this all worse. So often in our lives, we're stuck between a rock and a hard spot. And we've got these problems behind us, and we've got these problems before us, and we can't find a way out, and all we do is sit there and complain. Focused on those problems. And then we start accusing others. But Moses, he's the leader, right? He's doing what God has asked him to do, and he's following God's direction through this whole thing. And so what does he do? He tries to talk to the people. He tries to rally the troops. And sometimes, as a leader of an organization, it's really hard to keep people motivated to keep moving on. Especially when we're faced with problems. Sometimes people just focus so much on the problem that they see ahead of them that they lose hope. And sometimes people are so focused on what used to be. Well, we used to do it this way. This is the way it's always been done, and we can't do it any other way. And they have absolutely no vision forward. But most often, people are afraid of the unknown. But if I do this, I don't know what's going to happen. If I say yes and I take this step to follow God in this direction, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what it means. But Moses spoke to the people with these words. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of God today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. as I read those words, I find great encouragement because I've seen it happen. And it's a great reminder of what God does for his people that are trying to follow him. We're facing battles, but they're not our battles. They're his battles. And the thing that I see in this, and I find really exciting, is those enemies that you see today, you'll never see again. You know, there's some of us sitting here today that have been going through some really dark times. And it would be great to never see those problems again. Rest in these words that God is fighting those battles for us. I don't know what the outcome is going to be and what it's going to look like, but this I do know. If we're saying yes to him, it's his problem to figure that out, not ours. But so often in the heat of the moment, what are we looking at? We're looking at the problem, not God. That's what the Israelites were doing. They see what's before them, and they see what's behind them, and they complain. But then God responds. He speaks to Moses. He says, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch it out, your hand out over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I, the Lord, will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through the chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and his chariots and his horsemen." Can you imagine just being faced with this great big thing in front of you? I don't know what it is. You dream about what it could be. Because every single one of us are facing something. And for some, it's not that big of a thing. You know, it's something that, oh yeah, it's a nuisance. But for others of us, it's such a great big huge mountain that we can't see any way through it, around it, or over it. And all of a sudden, we take our eyes off of that. And we refocus our attention on Christ and who he is and what he's doing and done in our lives. And all of a sudden, we start to see that problem in front of us open. We're faced with a decision. Are we going to walk into the middle of that problem? Or are we going to stand back here just trembling in fear because I don't know what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen if I take that step. You know, you think about it, the Israelites, okay? Here it is. The water is parted. And they're standing in the middle of it. And there's great big walls on either side. For me, I think it'd be kind of cool. Because I'd be looking, hey, there's some fish there's some fish here, you know. But imagine them in that situation. Here they are, right smack dab in the middle of the problem. And the Egyptians are on their tail. You know, at the first, you know, you take that first step and it's like, okay, the footing's firm. And there's water on either side of me, but it's a long way to the other side. Then you take that second step. And it becomes a little bit easier. You know, and then the ground's still a little firm, you know. But all of a sudden, here you are. You're right in the middle. And there's water on each side. And you still got a long way to go to get to the other side, and the Egyptians are right behind you. How's your faith then? What are you going to do? I don't know. For me, at that point, it seems like it'd be a whole lot easier to keep moving forward because the other side's getting closer. But still, there's that fear that builds in us, the fear of the unknown, because we don't know what is over there. And today, I know we're struggling. We're taking steps into the unknown. We're taking steps into the unknown as a church. We're taking steps into the unknown in our own personal lives. It's unknown to us. But God knows. He's got a plan. And for that plan to come to fruition, we need to keep moving forward. Not letting those fears crush in on us. The Egyptians, they followed. Right into the water. Right into the path. And God let the waters come crushing down on them. Completely wiping them out. Think about it. What's going on in our own lives, in our own church, and the things that are crushing on us and hammering on us from every aspect and angle, and all of a sudden this path is opening and down the middle. Are we going to walk it? Knowing that it's God leading us through it? And if we look behind us, we can still see those problems chasing us. Verse 13 says, Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again." Is there something there for us to hold on to? Some glimmer of hope and promise of God's deliverance from the problems that we're experiencing today. You see, I really believe that God has us on a journey. And as we look around our congregation today, every single one of us are at a different point on that journey. You know, some of us have been walking with the Lord for an awful long time. And some of us sitting here today have only been walking with the Lord for a very, very short time. But we're all on this journey together. And I got to tell you, if you come to some of us that have been walking with the Lord for a long time and ask, has there ever been a point in your life where you just felt like you were being crushed on every side? For me, anyway, the answer would be definitely. But then I would also go right on to tell you how God led me through that. And gave me victory in my own life over that sin that was trying to pull me back. The only way to do anything is keep moving forward. If any of you have spent any kind of time in my office at all, you probably would have noticed on one of the shelves there's this little brass turtle. And it's a turtle that you look at it and the shell pops open. And that was given to me from a friend of mine in Wisconsin, Ralph, as we were leaving to come here. He says to me, "Ron, here, I want you to take this with you." turtle, it's something that means a lot to me, and I just want you to have this. And he says, I wrote a little note and stuck it in there, but I don't want you to read it till you're where you're supposed to be. And so I just packed it along with our stuff, and we got here and opened it up. There's just a little tiny piece of paper. And on that paper it says, the turtle never gets anywhere unless it sticks its neck out. Think about that for a minute. The turtle never goes anywhere unless it sticks its neck out. If he's always got his neck stuck back in his shell, he's not doing anything. And how that correlates to me and where I am today, and is you go back to the scripture and God's saying, move forward. But if I'm too afraid to take that first step, if I'm too stuck by fear and anxiety and looking at all the problems around me, I can't move forward because I'm not focused on the right thing. So I have to ask this question, who do we trust? Who is it that we trust with guiding our life? The Israelites, here they are, on the edge of the Red Sea. And the water's there. And the Egyptians are coming hard behind them. And Moses, he raises his hand with that staff, and the water starts backing up. And the ground before him is dry. Who's going to be the first one to take that first step? Are we going to move forward? Or are we going to be looking around in fear and let that fear hold us right where we are, stuck? God's got a plan for us. But the only way for us to live in that plan is to move forward by taking that first step. And a lot of those steps are going to be filled with anxiety, but yet if we keep our focus on what is guiding us, our Lord, it makes it a lot easier to keep walking. Let's pray. Lord, this morning I know a lot of us are dealing with things in our life that are just hard. And there's so many things that we can get focused on that would distract us from you. Lord, I pray today that today would be a day where we could say, no more. I'm going to take that step and follow you. Lord, that you would help us to keep moving forward. Even in the middle of all the fear and all of the anxiety and being surrounded by things that are constantly trying to pull us aside. Lord, I pray that you would help us keep our eyes on you. Lord, that this morning as we come to a close, if there's somebody that needs to just spend some time in prayer, taking those steps, follow you, that they would do that today, so that they could obey this command that we see you giving Moses to move forward. that we wouldn't be restricted by fear. Lord, I pray that this would be the day we take that step. As we come to a close this morning, if God's working in your heart this morning, if there's something that He's just trying to help you move forward through, the altars are open. As I was working on this message, a song come to my mind, and I can't think of who wrote it or anything, but it's I Will Follow. And it goes, I will follow you. Anywhere, everywhere. I will follow. And as if we are really serious about our relationship with Jesus Christ, if we're really serious about wanting to be who it is He is calling us to be, that has to be the song of our heart. I will follow. Anywhere. Everywhere. I will follow. Let's stand. Lord, if there's somebody here today that you are dealing with, that you are trying to break through, that today would be the day they say yes. And that they would have the courage right now to step out and come to this altar and find peace that can only come through you. If that's you today, I encourage you to come now. It's not something to be ashamed about, because God has called all of us. Lord, today, I pray that you would just continue calling us. That we would take those steps to say yes and follow you. That no matter what, no matter where, no matter how, we would move forward. Being like the turtle, extending our neck, taking that step of faith to follow where you're leading. Lord, we love you and praise you today. In your name we pray.